So,
Oh, okay.
according,
We know heart disease is the number one killer. Why do you feel in the future the human heart will be able to heal itself?
okay, so essentially the textbook, if you read a textbook in cardiology, the notion is that the heart cannot regenerate. There are cells in the cardiac muscle cell that cannot divide. Therefore, when we have a heart attack, we can lose up to 1 billion muscle cell or cardiomyocytes, 1 billion in a heart attack. And, if they cannot divide, how we can get a new muscle cell? So this was really the textbook idea that the heart cannot regenerate. However, about decades ago, there have been some studies coming from various laboratories that show that mammals, like us, human beings, we are mammals, can regenerate the heart, but only at birth, essentially, or around birth in human. In mice, it's very accurate. 1 week, we call it the week of opportunities, where if you injure the neonatal heart, the heart of a mouse pup, if you injure it, basically it will recover, regenerate. The entire muscle will be functioning again. And if you do the same experiment 1 week later, you lose this capacity or ability to regenerate. So based on that, my lab has been doing quite intensive research into what molecules are basically missing in the neonatal heart during the first week of life. If we find this molecule, we may be able to somehow reintroduce them to the heart and teach the heart to heal itself. And that's basically the I would say the paradigm shift in thinking about regeneration, that we can restore some function of the heart that exists when we were very, very young. So this field of research has been now called regenerative medicine or cardiac regeneration, for if we are focusing on the heart. In addition to all kind of other therapeutics, immune therapies, or even stem cell therapies. But our essentially hat as developmental biologists is somehow to teach the heart something it knows to do, and that is to regenerate, to regrow heart muscle cells. And so my lab has been identified a few molecules like that, and one of these molecules we are advancing to the clinic now, and hopefully in the next year or two we will be able to try that in a first in human clinical trial, phase 1, to see whether it's safe and whether we can see sign of efficacy in heart failure patient, and also in patient that had heart attack.
Is the ultimate goal to commercialize this molecule into some kind of pill that someone could take? So if they were having a heart attack, it could maybe stop the heart attack and the heart could regrow. Is that the end game?
Yes, in a way, this is you put it simply, but this is one of the way we think about it. Is first, I wouldn't say a pill. The first, I would say, first indication would be to give an injection, a multiple maybe injection to a heart attack or heart failure patient. You give that IV through the blood system. You inject maybe 2 or 3 doses of this protein that we found called agrin. And
Adrin?
agrin, agrin is an important molecule in heart development that my lab has been working now for 10 years. And this is what we are developing as a therapy. Again, so not a pill, but actually as an IV injection of this drug.
And would you give this IV injection in the ER, like as the person is having the heart attack?
Yeah, so we would start with the first in the ER, and then basically maybe 1 week later it will come for another injection, and then another week, just to basically synchronize the repair process, the healing process, so that it will be a better healing of the heart following this event. So one of the goals would be to save as much as we can that will not have more damage, right? So the progressive loss of muscle tissue. This happens to a lot of the patients, and recurrent events of heart attack, etc., etc. So you want to avoid that. And the other goal is to really regrow some heart muscle cells. So that's the regeneration part, the healing phase. So to prevent on one hand and to regenerate on the other.
And how close are you to really using this protein? Like, are we talking, we could see this in an emergency room in the next 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10, 10 to 15?
So as I said, we already working on that for 10 years. The plan was actually to be first in human in the beginning of 2026. I don't see this now happening, so it would probably be, if everything goes well and we are successful in fundraising, will be probably in 2027 in first in men. But again, this clinical trial requires multiple phases. The first one is to see that we don't harm, we don't do any harm, called phase one, that it's not toxic to the patients. Phase two is to show some beneficial. This can take up to 5 years, I would say, before we can really give it to thousands of patients and see really big cohort of patients and see. But it's not just me. I think several labs and research and companies are now in a trial to have this, I think, new wave of therapeutics to heart disease patient, which could really transform how we see cardiology in the next decade. So I'm optimistic.
You're very optimistic. And you have developed two separate companies, I think one in the cardiology space and one in muscle regeneration. Is that right?
Yep,
So
pretty much.
what are the goals of these two companies?
All right, so I want to shift maybe to the other startup company that I founded in 2021, and initially we knew how to grow skeletal muscle stem cell in a dish. So you know that the heart, it's really interesting thinking about this paradigm. So the heart has no stem cell; it cannot regenerate. However, your skeletal muscle, the muscle, right, of your arms and legs and even your face, these types of muscle, which is quite identical, they're both called striated muscle.
I know this because my face muscles are relaxing a little too much. Just a little interjection there. Go ahead, Eldad. Sorry.
But again, when you go to the gym, okay, and you run or you do some sports, you tear some of your muscle fibers in your body. And these muscle fibers contain these cells that are known for 60 years now. They called satellite cells. These are bona fide adult muscle stem cells. They sit on your fiber. They are waiting. They are activated now after injury, and they can rebuild the muscle fiber that are basically hurt.
This is basically what bodybuilders do: tear the muscle and rebuild it.
Exactly. So
Okay.
two types of muscle, quite similar. One has capacity to regenerate, a wonderful capacity, and the other don't, which is, it doesn't, the heart. And why evolution chose this, that one muscle can regenerate and the other muscle cannot, is a big question, which is, by the way, a very interesting one. I have some ideas about that, but let's leave that. So we know how to grow these muscle stem cells in a dish. And so we identified a pathway that can push these stem cells. There are unique muscle stem cells that can push these muscle stem cells to make muscle fiber, really mature muscle fiber. And when I saw this, a postdoc of mine, she showed me this picture of the muscle fiber in a dish. They were stained with this fluorescent marker in red. And the entire picture was like this reddish muscle fibers. And I remember telling her, look, I see here an entrecote steak. This was 2020. I think 3 months later, we had a company, startup company, in the domain of cultivated meat. This was a
Yes.
huge,
Huge
uh,
industry now, right? Of course.
by the way, right now, it's not a good timing for this industry, but 4 years,
Why is that? Why is that?
I think, I think because, so much money, hype was so big in 2021, 2020. I think only here around the Weizmann Institute campus, there were 8 startup companies in this arena of cultivated meat. 8 companies I could see from my window here.
Wow.
And that's how hot this topic was. And I think now the investors atmosphere or feeling is that, okay, where is these steaks that you promised us? They don't
Yes.
see in the supermarket. They are, they are after other buzzwords like AI
Yeah.
and others. So
The train has left the station for now. For now.
for now, I agree with you completely. For now, and what we actually did a pivoting of this company, because what my company, they know how to do. They call Profuse Technology. They are located here. By the way, it's a story on here in Israel. I mean, they were located in Kiryat Shmona, at the north part of Israel, near the border with Lebanon. And on October 7th, in like one day, the company vanished. All the employees of the company were evacuated. The company was closed. We had to build the company in middle part of Israel in Yokneam. But still, we are active and we are seeking. And what we are taking the platform for making muscle more mature and more robust and bigger, because we know to grow muscle cell in a dish. So we now do that from human muscle cell.
So this is one of your companies.
Yeah. And so the idea would to look for drugs that prevent the muscle loss. We as we age, we lost a lot of our muscle mass, especially when we are talking now on these drugs, the weight loss drugs that are very,
Ozempic and Wegovy or Wegany or whatever you call it.
they are very popular. But one of their major side effects is the lean muscle mass loss. So you lose a lot of weight, but you lose also a lot of your muscle mass. So imagine that you can find drugs that will allow you to lose the fat, but not the muscle. And
It's a
that's
good
what
tagline. Lose the fat, but not the muscle.
exactly, yeah. And this is really, really key in maintaining healthy longevity, basically. Maintaining your muscle. I would always tell people exercise, exercise, exercise. It's really important. So
Lift weight.
the
So
two
that's your first
companies,
company.
are around muscle regeneration or prevention of muscle loss on one hand from heart attack or heart failure, on the other hand from weight loss drugs or obesity or other things. But the center is about muscle biology and muscle regeneration.
I want to talk for 1 second. Give me a one sentence. No, let me say it this way. What does the Weitzman Institute do?
So the Weizmann Institute is it's very interesting, I think, institute with this philosophy that it doesn't tell you what to do. It just the philosophy is we want the most talented scientists we have and let them do whatever they want. Follow, I have here a sign, follow your heart. Basically, follow your dream. Go after your dream. Do whatever you want. We don't tell you what to do in any way. It's not like, you have a position in a university, in a department of physiology or anatomy, that you want to have a researcher working on anatomy of whatever, skeletal anatomy. No. Here, if you are excellent, we'll give you everything you want, everything you need. We don't tell you what to do. Just do it.
Your self-starter, brilliant self-starters.
Exactly. And I think Twerk has been working dramatically well in the last, now, more than 80 years now.
Amazing stuff comes out of the Weizmann Institute.
A lot of, brilliant stuff and therapies. I think in the last decades, we do see a lot of shift from what we call the basic research towards translational research, preventing disease, combating cancer, immunotherapy, and other diseases. So that's much more common now.
Yeah, and as far as just staying on the Weizmann Institute for a moment, what do people outside of Israel, what kinds of therapeutics are they enjoying that came from the Weizmann Institute? Can you name a couple?
Yeah, actually, one of the most famous drugs that came out of Weizmann is called Copaxone. Copaxone is a drug that was developed, actually identified at Weizmann 50 years ago. And it has been a big bestseller drug of Tiva. And the Weizmann Institute did billions of that from royalties from commercializing this drug to Tiva or licensing.
And what does the drug do?
The drug is aimed for multiple sclerosis. So patient with multiple sclerosis, it's an immune modulator drug. The funny insight about Copaxone is that we have been working on this drug for the last 5 years in actually repurposing that for heart patients. And in fact, we have treated now more than 20 patients with Copaxone because this is a drug that modulates the immune response. And we know that the immune response is a key element in your ability to heal in any injury, right? Whether it will be a heart failure, heart attack, diabetes, or any kind of injury or disease, or even in cancer. So the major effect of the immune system can determine whether you will have a good trajectory or bad trajectory, right? So Copaxone somehow is able to shift basically the anti-inflammatory response, the pro-inflammatory response into anti-inflammatory, meaning that you have less inflammatory effect, which is very detrimental for patients. So we use Copaxone to basically treat heart failure patient because we want to somehow suppress the immune system. And so this is just one example of a drug that was developed 50 or 60 years ago here at the Weizmann Institute that is now being repurposed. At least that's what we are trying to do.
Despite Israel's teeny tiny little size, it has a really outsized influence in the world. Why do you think that is? What is the reason that the influence that Israel has in the world in terms of contributions is vastly surpasses its size?
I think the first reason is innovation. There is something about this word innovation in our culture, I think. I always thought that our best PhD students or our PhD students are really, when they are compared to peers around the world, they're much more I think, mature and kind of and having this even the chutzpah to do things. They don't afraid of doing some even some stupid stuff. But that's one of the key element on innovation, is that you
I'm sorry, Eldad, define chutzpah. What is chutzpah for the average person? Maybe they don't know.
you know there are so many things about chutzpah, but I want to take the good things about it. Is that I don't care. I just going to do that. If people will tell me it's not going to work, it's bullshit, don't try it, it's waste of time, or and I will do it. I'll just do it. That's somehow I think something in the nature of Israelis is just to do things, um, and not too afraid. And by the way, I think it sometimes hurts a lot of the Israelis. They always think that they know better than anyone else. But this is one thing, that this innovation, this creativeness, that I thinking on new ideas, how we want to improve it, not accept what people tell you to do, right?
And that leads me to Network 8400. Do you feel that Network 8400 is going to multiply advancing goodwill and good healthcare for mankind? So please share with us, what is 8400?
Right.
Share with us. It's called Network 8400.
So in 2022, I did join this program called 8400 to advance, basically to push forward the biotech, health tech industry in Israel, kind of playing with the 8200 idea that is a human unit, a very famous intelligence unit in the army, that was the engine, I would say, the innovation for the why Israel became the high tech nation. So we always thought, why we are not that successful in the biotech or in the medtech side, as compared to the high tech, to the cyber and internet and AI and computer and all these area of research. So the 8400 idea was to have these networks of people that every year you join, another 50 or 60 people are joining this network, which is about 400 people. Now, these networks of by now is 400 expert, I would say, include people from academia like myself, from the Weizmann Institute, but also professor, high positioned from medical centers, from hospital, even like vice president of the hospital, really top position in the clinic, from the industry, from companies, from VCs, and even from the government. So you put all these people together. Each one has a title, a professor or a doctor or a pioneer or investor. Each one has ego, big ego. But you come there, and everyone is just having his name, Eldad. No professor, nothing, no ego, and you just learn to basically interact. In Israel, it's so tiny that within 2 seconds, that his mother or his son is with your son in the army, etc., etc. So at the end of the day, it boils down to a WhatsApp group. I always tell.
Isn't that always true? It always boils down to the WhatsApp group.
It boils down to a WhatsApp group. Within 2 minutes max, you have a connection to everyone that you need to know, or any question that you have. Do you know some surgeon? Do you know some, I don't know, somebody who's know an AI device or an AI thing? It's just connecting people. And whenever I need something. Everyone from the network is happy to help. No, again, and it's quite amazing. A lot of it is just to even just congratulate people for their success. But I think it makes it really push forwards a lot of, I think, good things, and in pushing innovation and ideas and friendship between the people, and it's
And then I would, is there an outcome? Do you feel that the rewards of 8400 will appear outside of the country of Israel? Do you feel that 8400 coming together as groups of very, very smart, innovative researchers, physicians, whatever, are developing therapeutics, etc., for mankind? Do you see that happening in the future?
yeah, in a way, it is happening all the time. I think the question would be whether, without the 8400 it will be the same, or with the 8400, whether this you can somehow have a quantitative measurement to say this is really improving. I don't know to answer that, but I have a feeling that it's something in the right direction. I think that, at least that's how I feel. That I have connection with people that I can consult with, get some advice, talk to. It's reassuring. You have someone, and when I was having these two companies, and I remember we tried to have fundraising, and immediately I approached people at 8400. Okay, you're from 84, yes. You talk to this one or talk to this one, and that's how things are happening.
Things are happening. My last question is something that really it's a real head scratcher in a lot of ways, and very obvious in others. And the question to you is, why do you feel that Israel is not perceived as for the good of mankind by so much of the world? I know I had to I'm sorry, had to throw it out there.
Everything changed, at least for me, on October 7th. So there was before and after October 7th. So before October 7th, I thought that, all these talks about, they really hate Israel, or they hate Jews. It's bullshit. It's something from the past. Anti-Semitism is is not a major thing. It was there. But after October 7th, I don't think there is a question for anyone to see what's going on, how much antagonism Israel is having in the world. And sometimes I ask myself, why is that? What did we do? It's not just, about the war, about killing Palestinians. It's much more than that, because this started on October 8th. We saw that much before, the war, the combat Israeli got into Gaza, the hate for Israel. So, and that's depressing. That's hard to reconcile. I think the entire world is changing so fast in the last year. I mean, I would ask you some questions. I mean, would you imagine what's happening in the US right now? The changing in how you perceive your country, the democracy you are having. So I think that's part of a much bigger change in the world,
Yeah.
and it's really beyond my my expertise. I'm just Eldad. I don't know. I know about my stuff, but I
Yeah.
think just the bigger questions of why we are always at the blame. Why
Yes.
you? But
Yes.
as much as it could get worse, I really hope it will improve, and I think we can do a lot to change that, or to try at least.
Well, that's the purpose of this podcast, is to shine light on all that Israelis contribute to mankind. And the list is bloody huge. It's huge. Um, every time I do another episode, I learn something else about some other researcher or startup, or I just did an episode with a guy who's saving the Dead Sea because it's vanishing, it's shrinking, and his approach to it, or the Oceanography Institute, that how they're doing amazing stuff with sharks, and it's just absolutely endless, and yet you don't hear of it. You don't know about it. You don't hear of it. That's why when I'm boiling something down, as you said, very straightforward, will there be a pill? Because that's what people care about. They care, what is Israel doing for my life?
Yeah, that's what I try. I try to have a pill, equivalent, let's say a drug, injector, that will cure your heart,
Yeah.
and
Well,
actually, and prevent also your to lose muscle mass, the lean muscle mass that which you need, and we all need, and have
okay.
a better and healthy life. That's what we are aiming for. Uh, I can just say that the 8400 is I call it no boundary, no bullshit. That's how I look at it. Just talking to people, and have great ideas and try to push them in a positive way.